Hello and welcome everyone to today's commentated fight. This one comes once again from Malaysia, and this was the POPsUP01 Championship, which stands for the Players Open Premium Stand-Up. So it is a premium event, and I think a lot of us have been feeling that premium hype lately. You know, I feel like I might even make a video on why I'm really enjoying premium right now, and it's not really for the kind of reason that you would expect, I think. So, you know, maybe some people are interested in that, but regardless, this event was hosted by CanYouSayG, so the man's been hosting a lot of events lately, but this is actually not the finals, this is the third place playoff, so it's not even the top 4, but thing is that the finals was it was a best of 3 where each game was between 2 to 4 minutes, and essentially it was Spikes versus DI, and Spikes rushed game 1 and won while the opponent was a grade 2, whereas game 2 and 3 the opponent essentially just did the NLK assassin loop and won both games like that. So the games were super short, and I felt like most people already know what those decks do, and we've done Spikes before in commentary, so I actually looked at what other footage he had, and he had this one, which is a matchup between Chirr using Royals, so the hot item as he called himself on the world's livestream. I absolutely love that. And then we have Captain Greenbeard on the right. I don't have any data on this player, I don't actually know their real name, but what you see there, he is using Granblue, but he is on the winner's playmat of that event, so that playmat is really good. It's drawn by DifferentFight. You can check him out on Twitter, but it's absolutely gorgeous. So now to get into the actual fight, we actually passed that filler shuffle time pretty well. Chirr went into the grade 1, well, the Strike Fodder, and he does run the Barkle, which I really like. If you're not familiar with Barkle, he did get unbanned, and you know, I made a whole video talking about why he got banned in the first place and why he's so good, but it's a really cool thing. So we can see that Captain Greenbeard, I'll just call him Captain from here on out, he went for the Romario, and now Chirr gets to search out the Flogel and use the Liu skill to ride a Blaster Blade from his deck for 1 counterblast, and that's really nice. So that's basically why you run that. So he didn't have to essentially call any, well, he didn't have to use any cards from his hand to ride to grade 2, which is really nice because now he can keep all his other important pieces in his hand and just attack with Blaster Blade just like that. And then, you know, this is an Alfred deck that we're looking at, so there's gonna be some other grade 2s that play a pretty big role in this as well. So I'm pretty excited to see this. This is my first time, if I remember correctly, commentating over Premium Royals, and I always wanted to see a bit more of what the deck can do, so it's really nice. And I think Granblue is also a really strong deck in Premium. You know, Solemn Vanguard talked about it quite a bit in his Road to Worlds video, which is like, you should definitely check that out. It's basically a whole documentary, and it's just really cool. Like, I'm smiling just talking about it right now. So we can see Chirr goes into the King of Knights Alfred, he gets himself the Force Marker. It's a pretty good play. I mean, he doesn't have any Counterblast because his opponent rode the Skeleton Cannoneer and just kind of denied him damage, but he's going to use the Torna to, or Tarna rather, I think Torna is the Xenoblade Chronicles DLC, but he's going to use the Tarna to write another King of Knights from his deck and get another Force Marker and stack it on the same circle. We can also see that Chirr might just be a pretty big Yu-Gi-Oh! Zael fan because he does have the sleeves of Zael twice, both on his his G-Zone and also on his main deck. But, you know, that's good taste. I think Zael's a good series. But anyway, he puts down the Flogel on the double Force Marker, and then Captain drops the Stride Fodder. Ooh, he gets 1 crit, okay, and then that's the Pack Goal. So that's the one that countercharges, and then he's gonna attack with a 35, if I'm not mistaken, Flogels. That's a pretty huge one. He didn't get any damage triggers either, but he does guard with it. Is that enough? 9, it's 24, 30, 34, I think. So I think he's 5k short, oops. But so I guess he has to consider this, but he does want to fill up his drop zone just because he probably wants to be able to roll off with his stride. So he does actually drop 3 cards to guard. God damn, that is quite a lot. But you know, it makes sense. He's gonna ride into the death, the Skull Dragon Undead, and he's gonna straight into Gouache and flips it face up immediately. Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and then Soul Blast any number of cards. So he's gonna get 4. it seems, or 3, but okay, I think he gets 4 cards out of his drop zone for the cost. Well, he has to pay 1 Soul Blast as cost, and then he can call out any number on top of that. So he gets 4. So it's gonna be the starter, the crit that goes to Soul to draw, and then the Cannoneer that can pop something since he has Counterblast, and also the Romario, which is just, you know, gonna get some power. But I think Gouache also calls them in Hollowed, so well, I'm not sure if he calls them in Hollowed. I know Night Rose calls them in Hollowed, but I'm not too sure on this one. So he gets the extra draw with the Banshee crit, and he's gonna call out the Cutlass with its own skill to also countercharge. So that's quite nice. He'll be able to do even more this turn. So that's definitely quite good, and he's still gonna be able to countercharge off of that starter because he also called it in Hollow, so that allows him to do that. So that's quite nice. I think that's... How much is that attack? It's like 16 if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, Gouache gives 1k to each, I believe now, so it should be an 18, so that's the perfect number. So he drops the 10k to guard that. Now he's attacking with a Skeleton Cannoneer, and I'm not sure this should be hitting for a 16 if I'm not mistaken, because it's a 14 base. But again, I'm not too sure right now. But he attacks with the Vanguard, gets a triple drive, not a single trigger, a bit unfortunate, but the hollows will go off, so Cannoneer pops off, and so does the starter. He gets the 2 counter charges, and that's going to be it for his turn. So that's a pretty nice turn to start with. You know, he has this Protect marker in hand as well, so like I said, Granblue is just looking pretty solid in Premium. Like, it does a lot of very flexible plays, and together with a Night Rose Stride, you can really pull off some really aggressive turns. The only shame is that because you don't play Night Rose as the main grade 3 anymore, you can't really play a lot of the Night Rose supporting cards like Bone and stuff like that, which I really like those cards. I really like the Night Rose deck in its prime as well, but oh well. So here he calls down the Pakgal, which lets him Soul Blast 2 to countercharge 2 if I'm not mistaken. So he's using Ganslot, he gets 2 crits on it, so that's going to be pretty huge because Captain did perfect guard that one, but he still has this huge Pakgal attack to go through. So I think one of those crits was a V crit and one of them was a regular crit, so that makes it so that he has to actually guard a bit less. So the Pakgal itself only has 5k attack, so it is pretty low, but he didn't need that. And also the markers that Captain is using were from the gift VGCS, which I think I also commentated on, but they basically, that was like the entry promo if I'm not mistaken, so that's really nice as well. So you can see that CanYouSayG in his events, he really does a lot of cool like merch and stuff like that. So if you live in Malaysia or if you're visiting Malaysia at any point, it's really worth to check out if he's running an event around that time, because these events are super worth to attend in my opinion. Like, I obviously haven't been to Malaysia yet, but I know CanYouSayG personally, and while I was living in Japan we hung out quite a lot, and you know, just from that I can tell you that he's a great guy, and you should definitely check out his events if you can. But you know, that's why I'm also thankful that I can always commentate over his events, because I get to feature a lot of the players in the Malaysian scene as well, which end up making to Worlds, so it's always pretty nice. So here he's using the Cannoneer to counterblast 1 to retire the Pakgal and draw himself an extra card as well. He also has the Mick in the back as well, so that's quite nice. And then the, well, Dragon Undead is going to be a huge swing, and he does get, ooh, he has to retire that technically in this timing, because the Dragon Undead does have the skill that it's retired at the end of battle, but a lot of people forget that, or they think that it's end of turn. Plus, Night Rose also retires everything at the end of turn because she gives all of the units that you call with her skill the Hollow ability, so in the end everything will be popped off. But I guess it's just like, it's technically better to retire it at the end of battle, because if you have something else on your board that can call units during battle, like, you know, there's plenty, but they're not really coming to my mind in terms of names right now. But if you do, then you can call over that empty circle afterwards, and that actually works out pretty well in your favor. So I'm just making some little remarks here and there, but the Night Rose Stride is really good for that explosive power. But Chirr is gonna ride into the Alfred early and calls the Blaster Blade from his soul, so we can see that this is really the Alfred that you want to be using most in Premium, because he just works really well in terms of you can ride him, call out the Blaster Blade, draw your extra card, and then still do your stride, which is really nice, and you don't really lose out on any kind of skills as you would with the Kingdom Knights. So he's going to go into the Ganslot once again, so he's still pushing a little bit. I think with Royals right now is that you do the little loop with getting more force markers here and there, you know, in the early game, and you try to push your opponent a little bit like that, and then you're basically relying on Ganslot being an efficient enough push to push your opponent to around 4, because that's where you can usually drop the Alfred Stride, and then, you know, you have a Blaster Blade sitting on that like triple or quadruple force marker and just kind of like swinging, you know, for with a drive check, so it's pretty big. But we can see the Captain does perfect guard this. He gets the crit and the Larousse. The Larousse is pretty big actually, and he gets a Blaster Blade and another Puck Gull, so he's going to be able to refund some Counterblast too. So this is pretty big. So this Blaster Blade is also swinging for huge amounts of damage. He's gonna hit for 2 damage as well, but he gets 2 defensive triggers. One's a 5k, one's a 10k, and then Chirr is gonna activate the Flogel to counter blast 1, put it back to deck, and stand that Blaster Blade, so he has to, and then he attacks with it too, and he has those double crits on there as well, so that's gonna be pretty huge. And well, actually, he didn't check double crit this turn. I think it was the previous turn, so that's my bad. But we can see that that's going to be the end of Chirr's turn, but he did push his opponent to 5 damage, so I think he set up the perfect state in which, you know, he can probably finish off Captain Greenbeard in the next turn, either with an Alfred Stride, or if he has Ultima, then, you know, by all means, you might as well just go for Ultima. But we'll see what he decides to do in the next turn. So now he does, I think he rewrote the Baskirk this turn, and now he goes for the Night Rose as well. You know, rewriting the Baskirk isn't that important, I think, because, you know, his skills are only active on the Vanguard circle, so when you stride over him, you lose all of them, but it's still, you know, it's fine just to get the extra Protect. And if you're also running the Flanger, you can also, you know, use his skill because you have to Soul Blast the Grade 3. So that's pretty nice, but here he's using the Night Rose skill, so he gets to pay the cost to call the amount of units that are face up in his G-Zone +1, but since he has 5 face-up G-Units, you know, he can just call 5 comfortably. So that's pretty nice. He calls down, I think this is called the Night Storm, this Grade 3. It's been a while, so I'm kind of forgetting, but this is what I meant with a card that really pairs well with Skull Dragon's End of Battle Retire, because you retire it, and then you use the Night Storm skill to essentially counterblast 1 and just pop it off, and then pop off, you grab another card from your drop zone to call into that spot where the where the Skull Dragon was. So that's why I think it's a pretty nice little amount of synergy, and that's why I like it. So he's attacking with the Night Rose first. We do know he has the stand triggers. Well, at least he had one because he was running the Mick, which is limited, but you know, we don't know if he's running any of the others. So he does get a crit. Chirr does give him the thumbs up on that one, so let's see where he puts this crit. I believe it already went to... Nope, he's putting it on the Night Storm. I really hope that card is actually called Night Storm and I'm not butchering it this whole time, because a lot of the old, like the G era, the Granblue cards did have very similar sounding names, so it does get a bit confusing here and there, but you know, that's just how the game is. But here he's attacking with the Cannoneer. Can't really calculate exactly how much it's attacking for, because Captain doesn't have the second skill of Night Rose going, because that requires you to have a certain amount of Night Roses in the drop zone to apply that plus 5k power stack. But I think it should be a 20 if I'm not mistaken, because Romario gets a plus 3k buff if I'm not mistaken. But again, I'm not entirely sure in this case, but at least I'm pretty confident that that's the case. And he did put the trigger on the Night Storm as well, so there's going to be more attacks coming through. I believe Chirr is on 4 damage though, or is he on 5? It's a bit hard to see from this angle. It might actually be 5, but you know, that does mean that he has to guard these pretty carefully, and we do know that he has... His last drive check was what? Blaster Blade, there was the Larousse in there, there was a crit in there, and then I don't really remember what else was in that drive check, and I think he still has one of the Alfreds from the previous drive checks in there as well, so his hand isn't that healthy. And surprisingly, neither player has really been drawing into their heals, and we haven't seen a single G-Guard yet, which is kind of strange considering we're already at like the second turn of strides. No, this is the third turn of strides for Captain Greenbeard, so we're going to go into the third turn of stride for Chirr, so that's actually quite rare that you wouldn't see a G-Guard for that long. But okay, it looks like Chirr was actually on 4 damage. It was a bit hard to see because of the name in there, especially in my editor, but he does manage to guard this one, but he's gonna... Let's see, does Captain use the skill? Yes, he does. So he's gonna counterblast 1, and then he's going to be able to call out anything from his drop zone into one of these circles. So let's see where he decides to actually put it. So I'm not sure which card he's hovering over, but let's see. Okay, he's going over that Skull Dragon. That's definitely not a bad idea. His hand is also pretty healthy here as well, so I think he's, you know, he's got a lot of decisions, but I'm not sure what exactly he's hovering over. I feel like the Skull Dragon is probably best because you're probably not sure on what he can actually call. Oh, he calls the Night Mist. That's a pretty interesting one, because the Night Mist can counterblast 1 to call something else out, or at least he can call out a grade 1, and then if he has more, I believe more than 10 cards in drop zone. God, it's been a while since I actually played around with Granblue in Standard, but I believe now he was able to call out something that isn't grade 1, so he called down the Cannoneer just to be able to use the skill, I believe. But, well, at least that's what it seemed like, but it also seemed like he didn't have any counterblast, but I think he just used one counterblast more than he was supposed to, a bit too early, and he like prepaid for this skill essentially, but that's at least how it looked. So he's dropping the King of Knights Alfred to Stride, and let's see what he decides to do. So he's not going for the Ultima is what that tells us, but let's see. So I think the Night Mist was a pretty good play there, because he couldn't, well, I think he could have potentially attacked with a Skull Dragon and then pushed for game, but he would have, you know, the Night Mist would have basically just wasted a counterblast in that case. So I think it's pretty alright that he used the Cannoneer there to just snipe that, the unit that was sitting there, and also get himself an extra card. So I think it's pretty nice for that reason, but we'll see how the game continues throughout this next turn. So let's see, Captain is on 6 face-up G units, and I think Chirr is only on 2 face-up, because he just rode Ganslot twice, and that was the extent of it. So we haven't seen any heals, as I said. You know, maybe neither player is playing heals, you know, you never know. Because we've seen a lot of different crits from both player sides, actually, so there is a chance that neither of them are playing playing heals, so that way neither of them can actually G-guard, but, you know, I'm not sure. I feel like Royals could, but also I feel like Granblue usually does run heals because their G-guards are really good, and he was running the old Perfect Guard too, so I think that basically, well, like he was running the Perfect Guard that can work when called from any particular zone, so I think that's why it's quite likely. So he goes into Ganslot, he uses the Larus to put the 2 crits, I believe, into his soul, and he's going to be able to call out 2 Flogels here, and then if he has a Blaster Blade that he can drop on those triple force markers, then he's going to be able to restand it twice with all that counterblast, and he's going to still countercharge 1 with the Ganslot. So this is the strength of Larus. You just put 2 cards from your hand into your soul and search out for 2 high beasts, but you know, Flogel, the devastator of the Royal deck in Premium and in G, is exactly, you know, is exactly what you need for that. So it also works well with Pakgal, because with Pakgal you can just, you know, with Larus you put 2 cards into Soul from your hand, and then Pakgal can just Soul Blast 2 to countercharge 2. So I think that's, I'm not sure what he's actually doing here. So okay, he wanted to call down the Blaster Blade first to snipe the Night Mist, and then he wanted to use Pakgal's skill to countercharge 2. So I think the sequencing there wouldn't have really mattered, but I guess he just chose to do it that way. This should be attacking for just a 13 if I'm not mistaken, so there shouldn't be any extra power buffs there, because Larus, if I remember correctly, doesn't get any power buffs. So let's see what he decides to do here. So Ganslot's still going to have that extra drive check and the extra crit, so Captain Greenbeard has to guard this for sure, because, you know, this is actually not the scariest attack either. So I think you might want to hard guard this one, so basically just like guard with proper shield values, because I think most of your PGs will be going to that Blaster Blade that's going to be restanding 2 times. It's already got, you know, 45k, well, it's got 40k base power with the 5k Pakgal, but it's still going to be attacking for 40, it's got 40 base power, right? So it's going to be attacking with 43 times, and that is if he doesn't get any, not a single trigger in this drive check. So let's see what he's doing here. He's using the G guard to call 2 cards from his drop zone to you know, guard for this attack. I'm pretty sure he could have actually called the Perfect Guard that he dropped earlier from this skill and then be able to just guard with it like that. But you know, that's still okay. Let's see. So I guess okay, there's 1 crit down, so that's already 45. A Bobo and a second Bobo. God damn. So the Bobos are pretty clutch in this meta. You know, I think a lot of people already know why. Okay, so he properly G-guards this one, and he puts back the G-guard. He probably guards this one with a PG, and he G-guarded the last one, and he still has a Protect in hand as well. Does he have enough to guard against the last Blaster Blade though? No, he doesn't, and that's actually game. So Chirr Hung takes 3rd place in the POPsUP tournament. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this fight. As always, looking at Premium is definitely very fresh, especially with decks like this, so I hope you did enjoy it. But anyway, that's gonna be it it for me today. Don't forget to check out the second channel as well as to click the bell button and check out the social medias in the description and join the Discord channel if you haven't already. But on that note, that's gonna be it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.